Hi, everyone. I am here. Give me a second. Hi, everyone. I am here. Give me a second. Hi, everyone. Yay, yay, yay. You're here. We are live. I am here. Give me a second. Hi, everyone. Yay, yay, yay. You're here. We are live. I am here. Give me a second. How about now? Can you hear me now? Thank you guys for sharing. How about now? Can you hear me now? Thank you guys for sharing. Now can you hear? Yay. Thank you, Samantha. Thank you, Diana. Hi, Pollyann. Hi, Deanne. Oh, perfect. Yay. Samantha. Thank you, Diana. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, perfect. Thank you. We are using a new streaming service. It's really great and um stable, and I am figuring it out. We can take a minute and just ground ourselves. And we'll be quick. I honor your time and I appreciate your patience. Take a second. You might relax where you are. You might just take a breath. You might just notice how you're breathing. You don't need to change anything about it. And just notice what's coming up for you, how you're feeling. You might be anxious. You might be coming out of something that you were just doing. You might be excited. Whatever it is perfect. Just allow yourself to be there. Take a moment and just notice your breath. And as you breathe, I invite you to offer in gratitude for this moment, that we're all together, for the internet, for technology, for all that you've had to move through to get to this point in your day, in your life, right? In this season where you are. I appreciate you so much for being here. I honor your energy as the folks catch this on the replay. May you be nourished by it. May we all be nourished by what's coming forth today. And with that, you might allow an intention to bubble up for how you want to feel during our time, for the magic that might ensue, and that you would get exactly what you need from the work. It's my intention to be a clear channel for clarity, for love, for activating you in easy, gentle, but powerful ways that supports you on your journey and sharing your sacred work in the world in more magical, more magnificent ways that are trauma informed and drenched in success and prosperity in all the ways. We say so be it, and so it is. When it feels good for you, you wiggle your toes, wiggle your neck, and open your, you feel ready. I would love it if you in the chat one thing you're grateful for. I would love it. And how your day is going so far today. I'd love to hear it. Samantha's saying, grateful for this moment to pause and breathe. My day's going well, but busy so far. I totally hear you. Totally hear you on that. Thank you for being here. Anyone else who wants to share, just drop in the comments. I'd love to hear it. We will dig in. The Center for Wholeness presents the Founders Masterclass with myself. I'm so happy and thrilled to be here with you all. When we think a little bit about why we're here, some of you know me well, some of you might not. I want to just share quickly. who I am and why I love this work so much. And so I am Samira, and I am a licensed integrative psychotherapist. And I am also a mastery method coach, and I love certified coach. And I love the blend between therapy and coaching. I think they're both necessary. And I think that they both have a really important place in our society. I also understand that sometimes when we have big, audacious goals, um, we are unsure of what exactly is getting in our way. For so long, I thought to myself, I know all of the information. Like, I know what I'm doing. Why can't I do it? Why am I not moving forward in my goals? Like, whatever that is, right? And so what I begin to really understand is what we're going to talk about today. When we look at emotional mastery and when we look at safety, right, it drives so much of what I do. And so I certainly realized at a young age that emotions were not always safe. And I think a lot of us did, right? Some people were very blessed to have a healthy emotional um, life. And as a young person, right? Some of us didn't. And the reality is that can shape us in so many ways when we don't feel safe with emotions when we're younger. And so when I decided, I think from a young age, that I really wanted to support other people on their emotional journey, I realized that for me, education was the path to do that. And so I did that, and I got out of my childhood as best I could. I journeyed that. I put myself through school. It took me forever to finish my undergrad degree. I kept getting sick. I kept having these challenges. I worked full time. It was a really tough season in my life. And what I really learned then, like firsthand, was how much the nervous system impacts our health, how much the nervous system impacts how we're able to show up and function. And so there was a point where I began to really realize I needed to go deeper in understanding how the mind and body work together for my own well-being. And by this point, when I was starting to like go down that path, I lived in Pennsylvania. I was in my 20s. I was working. I was figuring out all the things, right? And I had a car accident, actually two in a weekend. It's very challenging. And after that, right, I began to have what really was old trauma to come back. At the time, I wasn't in school for therapy. I was in school for business, right? Completely bad idea. Um, and I realized that what was happening is so much stored energy, so much old stuff had been buried, right, in my body. And the car accident, the impact of the car accident had kind of awakened that. And so I had some really good doctors, and they were young and progressive. And many of them said, hi, Carrie, we need you as best you can to seek out some alternative medicine paths. We think it could be helpful for you because you are so young, and we think that your injuries, don't require surgery per se. Um, but you don't be stuck in this pain cycle forever. So I began to go down this path of alternative medicine. And what I really began to learn was that mind and body are intrinsically connected, and that I needed to figure out what was happening in my body. And to do that, I was going to need to address whatever was happening in my mind. So I went down this rabbit hole of like self-discovery, what turned into trauma healing, right, for myself. Met a wonderful man. We fell in love. We had a baby. And then all hell broke loose in my life, right? Pandora's box began to open around all of this old trauma coming up. Hi, Karen. And I didn't understand like why. I thought I'm the happiest I've ever been. I'm the healthiest I've ever been. Why are all of these like memories coming up? I don't know if they're even like real. Maybe this is like just a nightmare. Maybe it's like a past life. Like I don't understand what's coming up for me. And so when I began to really go deeper around what needs to happen for me to heal, I learned that there's a lot that we don't know as humans, right? That we never really get taught about how the mind and body work together, about how the body does keep score and it does remember, and how when we give our bodies and our minds, right, and our spirits what we need, it will heal itself. So I committed to going back to school, to finishing my degree, to becoming a therapist, right? Even though it felt crazy at the time, I did this. And on that journey, after completing it, finally, after like 10 years, had this therapy degree, I really began to understand that we don't always know how to take care of ourselves mentally, emotionally, spiritually, right? Many of us don't understand how our nervous system works, and we really don't know how to operate at our best as humans. Many of us are never really taught. You don't really learn it in school. Many of us don't come from families that know enough to even teach it or to raise us in a certain way. So it's like, how do we find it? So I went on this journey to figure it out. And there were lots of twists and turns in that journey that I want to share with you. And I want to share what's happening, how you don't have to take as long as I did. And so for me, this journey kind of went something like my childhood was complicated, and there was love, and there was challenges, and there was trauma, and there was really like a perfect storm of events, right, that were happening in our country, that was happening in my family. I grew up in the South. And so childhood was very challenging to say the least. And what I will say is that when kids, sometimes we don't understand um, that feeling of powerlessness, right? And so we understand it, but we don't know what to do about it. Hi, Lawan, I'm so glad you're here. And we can often feel like it's safer for me to shut down and just get through this challenging period. And then once I can get out of this house or out of this situation, it'll be better. And so I kind of thought that. When I was 16, I moved in with a friend and I began to figure out my life, right? I knew I wanted to go to college. I figured that out, like I said, but I had began this awakening process where I realized there had to be more than life than this. I also had this moment when I was 5, that we talk about in the program, where I realized I wanted something different than what I was seeing. And as I began to really realize we have to decide what we want in order for us to go after it, and in order for us to really create these non-negotiables in our life around what's possible, what we're committing to, and how we can give ourselves permission to create something, even if we haven't seen it before, right? So that's what I did. Um, and when we really think about the tools to do that, it brings us to today's conversation. We're talking about, and I love this conversation, emotional mastery and psychological safety. It is so important. It is a much awaited union because I feel like this, in so many ways, is the solution to a lot of what we're facing in the coaching industry, in the therapy world, right? Really merging these two together, really diving deep into emotional mastery and psychological safety. Let's do it. Come on. Okay. When we talk about emotional mastery, Let me know what you think of. What comes up for you when you think about emotional mastery? Do you think about just like on the surface, being able to master your emotions? That's what I thought about it for a long time, especially when I was younger. I really thought that mastering our emotions for me at the time was like not melting down, being able to deal with how I was feeling in a mature way and moving through it. I kind of thought it was as simple as that. And the older I got, I realized I think this is a bit more complicated than that. Like, I think it's not just about not melting down. I think it's about being able to work through whatever is causing the meltdown in the first place. And so, hi Sarah, I really began to go deeper on that journey for myself. And that's what I'm wanting to bring to you today. When we think about the tenets of emotional mastery, these are the basic foundation. And I know it can feel like a lot, but we're going to go through it. And we're going to really go deeper in the program around what this means, how to implement it in your own life, and the work you do with your clients, with your families, with your communities. And we're going to go deeper around then how do you live by example once we learn to embody this. It does take time, it does take practice. And many of you who are in my world, right, you're already doing a lot of these things already. You might not have the language for it, but I know that many of you are already doing it. When we think about self-awareness, we're thinking about being aware, yes, of ourself, of our actual physical human self, of our higher self, right? Of our spiritual self. Some of you might think about this in the context of we have these different energy bodies, right? We have our emotional body, we have our physical body, we have our energy body. These all work together as nervous systems. So when we're aware of ourself, the different dimensions of ourself, we can then begin to think about how we're thinking about something, what we're thinking about something, if what we're thinking about, right, aligns with our values. So, for example, I talk to clients a lot about feelings aren't facts. And though feelings are valid, we can feel like punching someone for cutting us off. But if that behavior doesn't align with what you value, chances are you're not going to do that, right? You're not going to follow through on that action. So self-awareness really goes into being aware of yourself, the different dimensions of yourself, and learning how to work with them, right? Learning how to be the leader, right? The inner parent to yourself. Because many of us had caregivers and parents who did the best they knew how to do and who often didn't have the emotional awareness and intelligence to teach us. And so we've kind of been figuring it out on our own. So when we think about that, it leads us into social awareness, where we have this understanding of ourself and how these different dimensions of ourself works, right? And then we apply that out to our social environment. So people, places, things, different groups of people, right? Different situations in the world, we begin to have this social awareness. Some are living out the awareness or lack thereof that our parents had, that our families had, right? We may be living out this old paradigm that we grew up in that we never truly challenged. We never truly said, is this really what I believe? Is this what I think is true? Do I think this is true now? Like, have I looked at the operating system for how I believe socially? Some of us are, and some of us are not, but it drives our ability to be um, in control of our emotions and our emotional life. That brings us to self-management when we begin to put many of these facets together in a working system, the system of ourself, right? When we think about self-management, it's going to sound something like this. Many of us, myself included, struggle with neurodiversity. You might hear something like PTSD, you may hear something like you might hear something like anything that OCD, right? Anything that impacts how you're showing up, whether or not you have the ability to focus on the things that you're wanting to focus on, to follow through on the things you're wanting to follow through on, and creating ways to navigate that, right? One of the reasons why it took me so long to finish school is because I had ADHD. I didn't realize it. I never thought that I had something like that. I just thought that school was hard for me. And I always thought it was like a moral failure. I thought, if I could just be more organized, if I could be more motivated, I began to work out more, thinking that would help. I kept trying to treat the symptoms, and I never, for the longest time, until I was in my 30s, did I realize, what if the symptoms are coming from somewhere, right? When we think about self-management, we're talking about how can I operate at a high level. Many of you are and have worked with and are aware of high performance coaches. In many ways, that's what I am for my one-on-one clients. I really support them in understanding how they work, what they want, if they're willing to make changes in order to create the identity of the person that they want to become, while accepting the essence of who they are. Because we can accept our essence and be completely happy with who we are at our core. And there be things that we want to change about ourselves based on what we want for ourselves, what we want for our families, Beth, what we want in our life. So you can be okay, you can be happy with the core essence of who you are, and decide there are some habits, there are some behaviors that do not work for me based on where I want to go and what I want. Which leads us to the conversation really around higher consciousness. All of this that we're talking about on this slide goes back to higher consciousness. We're really looking at, how can I increase my level of awareness? How can I increase the perspective in which I'm thinking about something? How can I really increase the way I'm seeing this? Am I willing to see this differently? There's a quote that often says, time heals all things. It doesn't. I feel like that's a lie. Time does not heal. Time can pass and we can be as hurt, as angry, and as bitter as if whatever the thing was that happened yesterday. What heals is higher consciousness. When we're able to see things from a different perspective, when we're able to see, okay, this was part of the life that I incarnated into, because we can't always take bits and pieces, I believe, of the life that we're coming into. It's all or nothing. And so sometimes I think when we're able to broaden our perspective of what life is, of how we're seeing it, Eckhart Tolle's A New Earth book really goes into this, right? When we're able to look from this higher plane, we're able to increase our level of consciousness, which helps how we perceive our life, other people, ourselves, right? Higher power, all of these things are factored into that. All that impacts how we show up relationally. And so much of what's not working in our world, in our country, in our own lives in our work, especially if you are in a helping profession, if you're an entrepreneur, if you have this soul work that you're wanting to share, and whatever that soul work looks like for you. Sometimes it might be a business, sometimes it might be coaching. For other people, it might be a ministry or a faith-based thing. It might be a hobby that you have that you don't even care if you get paid for it or not. You just feel called to share the work. And so, whatever it is, when we look at how we show up relationally, it impacts how we operate in the world. There's a scientist, I believe her name is Dr. Joy, who talks about we are responsible for the energy that we bring to any situation, to the energy that we bring um, to any conversation, and that it's much easier to blame other people than to show up and take accountability, right? Which is our next point, for our own self, own actions, what we did well, what we didn't do well, how we can improve, and if we're showing up for the things that we say that we're committed to. Now, here's the thing, for some of us who grew up with trauma, right? For some of us who grew up in emotionally unsafe and unstable, and we can be hyper accountable. We can be super accountable in the way of like taking too much accountability. We can become over responsible for other people. We can become over responsible for results. We can, um, for a long time, I did this, become overly responsible for the results that our clients are getting. We can become overly responsible for people in our life, right? It can like tread on enabling. We can become so invested in other people that we're burning ourselves out, right? And not allowing ourselves to have the space and the grace and the margin that we need in our own life to take care of ourselves, to go back to that self-management, right? So that we're showing up well, fueled, well hydrated, well rested in our own right, right? Those are for us, those of us who maybe experience trauma, we tend to like sway on the side of burnout, exhaustion, over giving. So for those of us who are there, when I talk about accountability, you're usually accountable, right? What can be the edge, the opportunity for growth here for those of us who are overly accountable is making sure we're being accountable to ourselves for ourselves. So getting out of other people's business, getting out of other people's situations, and really tending to our own, right? Not being codependent in the way that we spend so much time being concerned and worrying about other people and tending to their problems that we don't have the time or the energy or the bandwidth to tend to our own. And so when we commit to being accountable to what we say we want, to our desires, to really balancing that feminine and masculine energy, to really going deep within ourselves to create whatever feels like harmony for us. I don't really love the word balance. I really like the word harmony better because harmony is going to be different for everybody. What feels harmonious for me might feel like chaos for you. What feels like chaos for you might feel boring for me. So it's not a linear process. It's a very intuitive process that's customized based on what feels true and resonant for you. And when we think about those principles, it leads us to a more goal-directed behavior. When we are able to look at what we want, decide, decide. When we're able to decide what we want, and if we want it enough to become the person that has it. If we want it enough to become the person that has that result, we're going to shift our energy behind that. And some of us don't really resonate with the word goal so much, right? It can feel more masculine, it can feel less like flowy and feminine, and that's okay. But the reality is, most of us, people in my world, there is something that you want. And the other reality is, in order to have it, we have to get behind what behavior, what habits, um, and what states of mind are going to need to shift for us to become the person that has the result. With that comes the reality. And for so long, I used to hate this one so much, right? Personal responsibility. When we really think about what is needed for us to take responsibility for our life. Again, some of us who grew up in trauma, who grew up in chaos, who grew up in conditions that were traumatic, that were maybe even abusive, right? When we say personal responsibility, it's not saying that we're blaming ourselves for anything that's happened in our life. It's saying, at this point in my life, I have to be responsible for my life, for my results, and for having or not having what I want. Some of us have more things working against us than others. And it's not an excuse, it's just a reality. Other people, you might say, I am responsible, like in general, and I'm not sure what personal responsibility is. Personal responsibility is really saying, I'm committed to taking responsibility for myself despite what anybody else did or said, or how anybody else showed up. I'm going to take radical responsibility for myself. Tony Robbins talks about this, and it can be an important conversation around when we take radical responsibility, we are releasing anybody else from the responsibility that is us. We're releasing anybody else from having control over us. And it can sound counterintuitive because for a long time, I thought that taking responsibility, personal responsibility, meant letting everyone else off the hook. And that's not what it means. Personal responsibility is accepting responsibility for your life, separate from anybody else. So it's saying, I'm responsible for me, and it's my decision to show up fully for myself that I want, and to do it in a way that feels resonant for me, right? We each need to ask ourselves those questions, and those questions have powers to set us free. When we these two really go together, personal responsibility and decision making. Like I said, we have to decide that our behaviors are going to match what we say we want. And sometimes because there's trauma that's unresolved. Sometimes they don't match. Our behaviors don't match what we're feeling or how we're showing up because there's things in the way. There's parts of us that feel scared. There's parts of us that are in shutdown. There's parts of our psyche that might still be in that old trauma. There's parts of us that still feel like this feels so hard. I don't know what to do to move forward. I've tried so many things. It's not working. I feel overwhelmed and scared, and I'm ready to give up. This really talks about what's happening oftentimes in the coaching and therapy world. There's so many amazing things happening in these two industries. And sometimes we've all been there. I've been there more times than I want to admit. Sometimes we go into something thinking it's going to be the fix. We go into something thinking, I'm going to make a decision to purchase this program. or to hire this coach or to get this new therapist, and they're gonna fix me, or they're gonna be like the missing piece to what I'm needing. And sometimes people can support you in bridging a gap to your next level. There might be something that you're just needing support around making a connection with. And once you do that, you are able to move forward in good ways. That can be very true. I believe in the power of mentorship. I believe in the power of lifelong learning. I believe in the power of personal development and really healing trauma in a holistic way. I think it's very, very necessary. It's what's helped me on my journey the most. And I believe to be true that each of us reaches a point in any given moment, in any given season in our life, where we have to decide what it is that we want. And in order for us to get it, many of us are going to have to go all in. Now, going all in means different things for different people. Some of us going all in simply means making a decision. For others of us, making a decision is getting clear on what it is that we want and what's not working. Some of us know what we want exactly, and we get unclear around if it's not happening, if we don't have it, if we haven't achieved it yet. We're not always reflective enough on what stands in our way, because sometimes what stands in our way is simply this part of us or parts that feel really scared. They feel scared, they feel self-conscious. Hi, Jonna. They feel terrified, right? And so much of that comes up when we are sharing our work, when we are putting ourselves out that more. Some of my biggest triggers in my journey, right, has been growing my business. It has been growing in visibility. It's been getting honest about what's not working in my life, in my business. It's about getting honest about what I'm not good at, right? It's about realizing that most of us need help to get to where we're wanting to go. We weren't meant to do it on our own. So much of the personal development journey really shines through when we're creating our business, when we are sharing our work. It's when we are putting ourselves out there more. It's more of a risk. Anytime that we are taking more risk, we are bound to be triggered. We are bound to have old fear come up, and often old trauma. One of the reasons why I'm so about this work is because so many times we are not warned, right? That when we go after our dreams, our goals, when we really working on expansion, that's when all of our stuff comes up. Old trauma, old things that we thought we had moved through, sometimes things that we didn't even remember. We can be so triggered, and old trauma can become activated. And we're going to talk about that more in our next slide on psychological safety. Luana says, working to create my coaching business triggered me at every stage of its development. It's so true, Luana. Me too. I thought that I was losing it, right? Like I went back to therapy because of that for myself. I thought, why am I so triggered? I thought this is the goal that I want. This is the goal that I have for myself. I want this. No one's making me do this. I want it. Why am I so triggered? Why am I in such shutdown? Deanne, I see you. And I really feel like we don't talk about it enough. How we can be so triggered. We can have a game plan. We can hire a coach. We can purchase a program. And then right there, self-sabotage comes up. We won't finish the program. 5,000 things come up. We get sick. Somebody else gets sick. things just go haywire. And so many of us are learning that that's different ways that sabotage can come up. Now, certainly life happens, and sometimes we're pulled away to care for other things or other parts of our life that we couldn't have seen coming. That's very true, and it happens. Yes, Luana, but also we can shut down because we're scared. Yes, and we have physical responses. We can have physical responses, physical symptoms. We can have emotional symptoms, right? In the beginning, every time I would get a new client, this was years ago. I was so scared of starting my private practice, but I would get one client at a time. I didn't do any marketing. It was all word of mouth. I would have panic attacks all the time about the idea of like marketing or trying to grow my business or sharing about my services. I see you, Luana. I would get sick every time I was about to do something new, every time. And then after about a year, I realized, what if this is not a coincidence? What if there's something here? That's when I begin to really research, right? What we now know as upper limits, what we now know as how the conscious mind and the unconscious and the subconscious and really the superconscious all work together to try and keep us safe, but also what they feel is safe is often our original blueprint. It's what we experienced from like birth to like 8 or 12 years old. Whatever was happening in that time in your life was a blueprint that your unconscious mind and your subconscious mind began to really take in as truth. And so it spends the rest of your life trying to recreate that, which is fine if those experiences were wonderful, right? If they were abundant and all good. For many of us, that wasn't the case. And even if someone had, perfectly fine experiences during that period of time, if you want something different for your life, say your childhood was really super safe and comfortable and maybe even boring, and you want something different for your life, you want more excitement, you want more adrenaline, right? In order to create something different, we're going to have to go against what we thought to be true in our nervous system, and that's going to create cognitive dissonance, right? And so we're trying to change something that our mind and our body might feel like is perfectly fine and shouldn't be changed. That's where we get the resistance. And so, yes, Luana, when you share, I feel better about it now. Yes, you're not crazy. Nothing is wrong with you. And you're not just like in the stage of like being a masochist. Like, that's not what it is. This is like neuroscience. Our brain is like, no, I don't want that. I'm not doing that. I'm not allowing you to do that because I don't want you to get hurt. And what we find so often that can be one of the biggest challenges in positive expectancy is when we are trying to think positive, right? When we're trying to hope for the best, when we have these goals that are very specific and they are very like, I'm going to launch my program, I'm going to get a new client, I'm going to share about my work, I'm going to start that website, I'm going to start that support group or that book club, I'm going to go bigger in whatever it is I'm doing. And then boom, all hell breaks loose, right? That's when our nervous system begins to shut down whatever doesn't feel safe. But when we know that, we can work to bring in safety. When we know it, we can create systems and patterns and safeguards that are going to help keep us safe as we grow and as we expand. And here's one of the challenges that I see when we don't have our own emotional mastery in a more solid place. There's no such thing as perfection, and none of us need to be perfect. But when we're able to really secure our own emotional mastery, we can then really do this deeper work around psychological safety in a way that is integrous and in a way that makes sense and in a way that's really holistic, right? So when we think about psychological safety, there's two levels. There's like on an individual level for ourselves and the people that we're working with, whether that like any people, so groups or one-on-one, right? Like in your faith community, in your home, in your family, right? This is like a micro level. So between you and someone else, it expands outward, but these are the focuses on really ensuring psychological safety. It's about proactively creating safety. It's about proactively creating safety in the conversations, in the actions, and how we're showing up for people. And again, there's no need for perfection here. We're all growing and we're all getting better, right? We're all deepening our devotion, our ability to really ground into safety, to feel like we deserve it, to feel like we are worthy of having it. And then to step forward in our leadership where we're able to say, okay, what do I need to commit to so that I can ensure my community has safety, that I ensure that my communications with people are safe, so that I can ensure I'm using my emotional mastery skills, what we just went over, right? And creating safety for people. Am I using all of those skill sets? So all of those things can be learned. Am I using that in how I show up with people? In that, it helps us to understand that one of the tenets of psychological safety is people being able to have choices. That goes for ourselves and for other people. It's saying, right? Like, people have a choice to want to work with us or not. And when we talk about trauma informed care, it's saying, okay, how can I embrace trauma informed care even in my I have an ice pack back here, sorry. Even my marketing, even in my communications with people, how can I really ensure that I'm honoring people's yes as well as my own, and I'm honoring people's no as well as my own without guilt tripping, without doing sleazy kind of sales, like unethical marketing practices, right? It's honoring people's choices. Now, certainly there can be elements at play. Someone might be afraid to commit, someone might be afraid to invest, someone might be stuck in fear or breakdown or sabotage. And those can be spoken to in a way that is respectful and might even push someone's edge, but in a safe way, rooting someone's choice and looking at our own foundational beliefs around, for example, in all things divine timing. If something is really for someone, they will make a way, they will find a way, they will create a way, right? Even if we have to get creative, if it's the thing for us, we'll do it. Sometimes it's about timing. And so when we're able to really honor someone's choice and not internalize it and not make it about us, right? Be wounded so that we triggered into old rejection wounds, old abandonment wounds when someone says no to us, rather understanding this is a no for them right now. This is whatever it is. It could be marketing, it could be sales, but it could be thing, right? When we're able to respect someone's choice, we can liberate them as well as ourselves, and truly nothing's personally. When we're able to really honor collaboration, when we're able to really honor working together with people in ways that work, also being honest and vulnerable when something's working. So really having that honest communication that's rooted in emotional mastery. Sometimes we're trying like to create psychological safety, and we mean like we're so well intentioned, but we're not working in the foundational principles of this previous slide around emotional mastery. And so these factors over here get really cloudy and really mucky because we're trying to create safety and honor choices and honor collaboration, but we're not working in our leadership, our higher leadership, and we're not in that grounded emotional mastery, and things get messy. We see it so much in the industries currently, right? Like mean girl behavior, high school behavior, really just not adult self behavior. And so when we think about operating in emotional mastery as it comes to psychological safety tenets, it brings us to trustworthiness. This is really created, it's built, and it takes time. And you don't have to be perfect at it. We're going to make mistakes when we're doing this. I get things wrong all the time. What I have come to learn is that sometimes a lot of safety and respect and choice can be created when we get things wrong, because it's based on how we address it, how we're able to move through it, how we're able to create trust, even when there's been a rupture, even when there's been perhaps someone got their feelings hurt or they feel betrayed, whatever it is, we can work through it. As a community, right? Um, it's important to create this know, like, and trust factor around the trustworthiness in the work that you're doing. Sometimes we focus things on like metrics, and they can be important, right? Sales and numbers and likes and follows, but the people that are in my world and the people who step into this program are really people who know they are here to do sacred soul work. And I believe in abundance, and I believe that people, especially women, deserve to be paid abundantly for their great work, that you can have profound compensation, that you can be so well supported by money and by your great work being worthy, right, of money, of a price tag, that all of that the work should not be given away for free, right? I believe in all of that. And it's important for us to understand that what we're doing is about more than just the money. The money is important, and it helps us to employ other people to give and to have the abundance that I think is all of our birthright. But when we're doing things only for a certain thing that's not really an integrity, we're not building trust. Some of the most amazing people in this industry have, and this is for therapy, for coaching, have so much integrity. They care so much about people, whether or not someone buys from them or not. Over the summer, I had so many requests in my therapy practice, and I currently have a wait list because I'm growing my coaching practice, right? And so people would reach out to me and I would reach back out to them. Two situations, right? Took me like a week to get back to them because I was sick, things were happening here. I had two different situations this year with long COVID. It's impacted this launch, like so many different things have happened, right? And when I got back to the people, all of them said, "Thank you for getting back to me." People don't even respond, therapists don't even respond to my calls or my emails, and it's okay if they're full, but if they could simply say, I'm full right now, check back in a few months or something. It would mean so much. And I sat with that because it's so true. Trustworthiness is more about, it's not just about being able to tell someone something and then keep that a secret, right? It's about really being able to trust the relationship. It's being able to see someone's heart, to see someone's intention, to see where someone is at, that they have the courage to try and get support, to try and get help, to want to grow. And when we can meet them with validation and with empathy, it really creates a sense of empowerment, also of care. And there is no price tag on feeling cared for and feeling loved and feeling seen, right? Even if you can't meet the request that someone has. That's a really important aspect that we don't talk about enough, I feel, with psychological safety. I think it brings us to that sense of empowerment. People are so much more likely to feel empowered when they feel, when they have choices, when they feel validated in their choices, right? When they feel like, even if I don't say what she wants to hear, even if I say no, this isn't the time for the program or investment, or for having someone over, or whatever it is, it right now isn't the time for us to go on a family vacation. Thanks so much for thinking of me. Whatever it is, when we're able to be clear in that, when we're able to come from a clean energy, people feel so much more seen and validated, and that creates trust. And it can create a real sense of empowerment in the person um, who might feel like what they say doesn't matter, who might feel like their truth is not valued. It can be a really reparative experience in all sorts of ways. So not just in terms you're sharing a service with someone, or you're asking them to work with you. Across the board, it can be really important. And so when we span out and we really think about on a macro level, when we're talking about the collective in creating psychological safety, we're really talking about creating safe environments. And this is impacted, this affects our communities, on social media, in person, right? In our paid programs, in our free programs. And it's not always the easiest thing to do, creating safe environments, but it's 100% worth the commitment to doing this work. People will feel safe and held when that's your intention. And when you're willing to put the time, the energy, the resources behind creating safe environments. It's really a principle of trauma-informed leadership. It's also a way that we proactively create psychological safety. And when we create intentionally safe environments, we really are working proactively to prevent re-traumatization. Luana says, choice is one of the things that makes me feel safe in a space. It's so true. And if you think about that, we all want to feel like we have a choice in our relationships, right? Like if we're at the store, if we're dealing with, like an online order or whatever, like just normal everyday things, we want to feel like people are hearing what we have to say. They're hearing whatever our side of it is, and then they're giving us a choice in how we can move forward, right? Even if it means that we're not getting our way. Sometimes someone can give us a choice and it's not what we would choose, right? It's not like the perfect choice. But I love what you're saying, Luana, around when we can honor somebody with choice. We're really saying, I respect how you feel. I respect your thoughts. I respect your desire, even if I can't meet it. We can have competing needs. And what that means is I need something and you need something, and maybe they're very similar, but only one of those needs can be met. Someone's going to walk away with an unmet need. And that happens in life, right? It's going to happen to all of us, like more often than we realize. But what I love about what you said, Lawana, is that when choice is active, when we have choice, and when we're able to talk about either the choices that we don't like them, or they're not ideal, or that we don't have one and we wish we did, when we're able to have that dialogue, it 100% creates safety proactively. And it can help in preventing re-traumatization. So much traumatization happened in this personal development space because people don't truly understand how to create psychological safety. They don't truly understand how to prevent re-traumatization because we're unsure oftentimes what trauma is, how it shows up in all that we do. It shows up in what we choose to invest in. It shows up in trauma responses. It shows up in how we communicate. It shows up in overcommitting. It shows up in different patterns and habits that we have that sometimes people can look at and say, oh, she's a mess, they're a mess, they're all over the place, right? And if we treat someone as if they should know better, or they're choosing to make our life hard, when that might not be the case at all, they might simply have low emotional intelligence. They haven't done the harder work of really focusing on those skill sets around emotional mastery. And sometimes, often, I think that's the case when there's unresolved trauma, when someone's trying to make themselves be ready, when sometimes it's when we're trying to pretend, like I think we have this idea that if we just focus on positivity, that's going to fix everything. I love positivity and it's helped me so much in my life. But there was a point where I really began to become like moving into toxic positivity when I felt like a positive spin had to be placed on everything or it was negative, when really that's the essence of spiritual passing. And we will go into that more deeply in the program. Well, but when we talk about preventing re-traumatization, it's owning the fact that what we do matters, that what we don't do also has impacts, and that we don't need to be perfect, but we do need to acknowledge and talk through certain things in order to prevent re-traumatization. For example, if we can't do what we say we're going to do, we need to address it in a way, right? Taking ownership, possibly renegotiating the terms of whatever it is so that both people can be on the same page. And sometimes that's hard. I have fallen short on that and really had to work on it and continue to work on it. When we prevent re-traumatization in our communities, it's being aware of the fact that when we're doing any kind of transformation work, when we're doing any kind of personal development work, we're going to be bumping up against childhood things, old programs, old stories that often were rooted in trauma. So when we go back and work with those things, those beliefs, those narratives, those stuck points, it's likely that trauma could come up for someone. So we have to commit to really learning how to implement trauma-informed care as a standard. And how we do that is by becoming trained in nervous system competency. It's becoming trained in regulation and detachment. Therefore, we know what we're looking for, right? You don't want a surgeon who hasn't gone to medical school, but he's like me and he's watched every episode of Grey's Anatomy. Just because he's watched every episode of that doesn't make him a surgeon. So if we give him a scalpel and we just, give consent to surgery, he may not mean to harm us, but chances are he's going to, because he doesn't know what he's doing, even though he means well, and he has the true intention to be of service. If we're going to do transformational work with people, it becomes a responsibility to ensure that they're safe and that we're safe. Because sometimes the challenge becomes we do deeper work with people, they become triggered, they lash out, we become triggered, we lash out, and harm is done even when that wasn't the intent. It was never an intent for harm to be done. But when we are not proactively ensuring psychological safety, and when we're not proactively solidifying our own emotional mastery and then teaching that to our communities, and how we show up in the things that we offer, and how we conduct ourselves, harm is created, even when that's not the intention, even when it's not our intention to cause re-traumatization. It happens when we're ill prepared. And oftentimes it happens um, with no fault to art. Like it's not anyone's fault. It's the lack of knowledge. We have so many beautiful modalities that are so helpful and that can really be transformative, right? If they are conducted and led and facilitated in a trauma-informed way. And there's so many people who are doing beautiful work around this. They're teaching people that you can create, you can like employ these amazing modalities to help people shift and grow, expand, up level. And when you put them in a trauma-informed framework, it becomes even more powerful. And that's what we are going to do in the program. So when you think about how do we cultivate emotional mastery within ourselves and our communities, what comes up for you? Are you committed to doing it? What are some of the things that you feel maybe blocked around or that hold you back? I'd love to hear in the comment section. And if you're on the replay, I'd love for you to share this so I can come back and circle back and support you around this. How do you get emotional mastery within yourself and within your community? For so long, I didn't know how to cultivate it. I thought that either I was good at it or I wasn't. And for a long time, I felt like I wasn't good at it. And it became very frustrating. And especially when I had like the rigid mindset around therapy is only if we're in a crisis. And we're going to go over this week the differences between coaching and therapy. But I thought that therapy was only if you were in crisis. And I thought that coaching was really only if you had a very specific thing you wanted to work through. And both of those are limited perspectives. It's not that they're not true for either, they're just limited. You can cultivate emotional mastery by getting the support that you need. And especially if you've been trying to work through something or work on gaining a certain skill set or improving in a certain way, and it's not working. You're not seeing the progress that you'd like to be seeing, and you're putting the work in. It's one thing if you're not putting the work in. We can't get results from work that we're not doing, and we can't get results from shifts that we're not making, and we can't get, results from any kind of thing that we're just not committed to. Sometimes we can like haphazardly fall into something great and like it works out great and everybody loves when that happens. But the real reality is we see mastery when we commit to the process, when we commit to the daily action, when we commit to the process. And the same for our communities. When we're showing up for them, when we're building that trustworthiness of I can count on you, I can depend on you to be here. And I can see that you're not going anywhere. And sometimes that can be so challenging. It's been one of my biggest struggles over the past few years was showing up consistently. I would feel so triggered. I would make progress, and then it's like my nervous system would constrict, and then I would work to create more expansion. I would come back out, be more visible. I would constrict again, right? And it felt like a roller coaster. I don't want that for you because it doesn't need to be that way. I didn't understand there were ways to create increased capacity in my nervous system by dialing back and committing to less things and taking some of the pressure off of myself. No one was putting pressure on me like I was putting on myself. It took me a long time to figure that out. And I want that for you sooner. And when you think about what's required to commit to psychological safety as the standard, what's required for you? Do you even feel like it needs to be a standard for you? For the coaching industry, for the wellness industry? Do you think does it need to even be a standard? Luana says emotional mastery for me will be better when I recognize that my behavior or my body is responding to being activated. It's not just me being lazy. It is not just you being lazy. In fact, you're not lazy. It's not you being lazy. I love that you understand that. I so love that. Also, if I can recognize it earlier in the timeline, so true. Not getting to a point where I have to start all over. If I could disrupt it earlier, that would be great. You can, and you're on the right path to that. You're here and you're also noticing, how can I look for the triggers? How can I look for the cues that I'm starting to go down this place of activation? It's not that we won't be activated. I had a friend in a women's group that I ran years ago. And she said, life's a trigger. And it's so true. It could be a t-shirt because life is a trigger. And the way that we move through it is simply by noticing those activations and being more mindful with our self-compassion, with our self-care, with really being curious around, okay, what's coming up for me? What led to this? All of that curiosity and being able to ask ourselves powerful questions makes such a huge difference. Such a huge difference. I love that you shared that, Luana. I'd love to know from anyone else, what's required to commit to psychological safety. And honestly, in your own life, in your personal life, this would be setting an emotional boundary. And in our work or in our professional life, psychological safety would be adhering to a certain standard where people's psychology, where people's mental health, where people's emotional health is a priority, right? Over um over profit and over like superficial things. Profit's not superficial, but what I'm saying is when we commit to psychological safety over everything else, I believe we can have abundance and prosperity and impact and make sure people safe, right? All of that can be true. And so I so appreciate you being here. I appreciate this conversation. And I'm so excited to share with you that applications are opening today for my signature program, Safe Trauma Practice. I've been talking a lot about it because I'm so proud of it. It is the work that I wish I had had, even 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, when we think about what does it take to really facilitate this work well? Whether that is the program that you want to put out, whether it's the center that you want to open, online or in person, this is a program that helps you really drill down on your own personal emotional mastery. Here's the thing, so many times we're in this paradigm around being a wounded healer. And I believe that we need to start where we are. And certainly for me, I had not worked through all of my um, challenges and traumas and defense mechanisms and outdated programming before I began to do this work, before I began to, get my degree, before I began to launch my own practice. It was a journey that was both me developing my own emotional mastery and me helping others do the same, right? And so the reality is we have to do our own work first. And many people have beautiful offerings, they have beautiful things that they're wanting to share with the world. And they are triggered and activated so much, and oftentimes unnecessarily, because they don't have that foundation rooted in emotional mastery. And here's the thing, it's hard to teach it if we don't know it. It's hard to teach it if we don't know it. It's hard to embody it if we don't know it. The same thing with psychological safety. It's hard to proactively ensure it if, hi, Ellen, if we're not understanding what it is and how to specifically create it in our world, in our containers, in our relationships. On that same note, right, when we think about creating trauma safe practices, it's to say, like I said, there's so many amazing modalities that are really, really helpful in healing trauma, in creating the life and businesses that we want, right? And working through our own just emotional challenges. There are so many modalities, like too many to even list. NLP and breath work and Reiki and matrix work and all sorts of um coaching certifications and all sorts of modalities around how to really help people to shift their psychology and to heal patterns that aren't working. And many, if not all, of those modalities are even more effective when they're placed into a trauma-informed framework that teaches you how to provide trauma-informed care in whatever you're doing. If it's the work that you're doing in the world, through your programs, through your coaching, through your therapy services, right? If it's how to become more trauma informed in your classroom because you're a teacher, the world needs more trauma informed care. And I'm so passionate about this because so many people are being re traumatized by trying to get the help that they need by people who are not trained to do it in a trauma-informed way. And so applications are open for the program. It is an application-only program. This is a 6-month container. And what is so special about this program? And like the stars must have aligned because this is the only time that I'm going to do it this way. This year, it's a 6-month container. In 23, it's going to be a 9-month container. And if you enroll in this cohort, you're going to get that cohort, right? Like as a bonus. So essentially, you will have a year and a half, right? Basically, to be in the program and go deeper in the work. And so in the program, we're working on your own emotional mastery, how to create psychological safety for yourself and for your communities. And that's in whatever way that you're wanting to create something. So you will have a goal that you're working on in the program that you're bringing to fruition while you're in the program. The alumni of this program are getting this as a gift who have enrolled before. And there's also an affiliate opportunity, if you know someone who you feel like could benefit from this work, they're going deeper in their own coaching and teaching and training, and they want to get trauma informed. They want to learn how to embody the framework in your own life, in their own life, and in their work. There is an affiliate commission. So if you're interested in that, drop a comment, drop an emoji. We will DM you with that information. And so the applications are open. This is for someone who's on their path. So they're aware that they're wanting to do the sacred soul work. They're wanting to share their work with the world in bigger ways. And for most people, they're on that path already, or they're clear that they want to be. That's who does best in this program. It is for people who are at a more beginner level, but it's also for people who are more advanced. And that's why it's application only, because I will tell you if I feel like this is the time for you, or if it would be more beneficial maybe for you to wait until the next cohort. Either way, you will get honest feedback. You will be accepted or receive feedback on maybe why now isn't the right time, or if it just isn't a good match, because it is an investment in your education and in your business growth. There will be more details shared this evening about the program. But if you're interested, and if so far you feel like I think this is for me, I know I need some help with emotional mastery, I am committed to psychological safety for myself and for other people. This is what I want to say. Luana, I love it. I've got you. We'll drop the link for the application for you. The reality is, I wish I'd had this years ago. I would have saved so much money. I've spent 2 or 3 or 4 times what this program cost on trying to find what this program has in one place, in one program. The other thing that I want to say, and I'm going to be talking more this week, tomorrow, actually, we're going to be talking more about this. Oftentimes Deanne, yes, lovely. We will drop the link for you too for the application. I love it. We are trying to create businesses and movement and do the work that's so noble and that we deserve to have shared with the world. And we're doing it on such a shaky foundation. That was me for years. It cost me so much time and energy and my health and unnecessary money trying to figure things out, like one PDF at a time, one coach at a time, one 4-week program at a time. Let me just grab my charger. I was trying to figure it out on my own. It was so hard. That's why I created a more comprehensive program to help you understand how to master emotional mastery for yourself. And then to be able to teach that and infuse it in all of your programs and in all of your work. Also, when we really commit to psychological safety, it's saying, I want to commit to honestly taking that. One second, my husband. Thank you, babe. It's really about saying, I'm tired of running around trying to find all of these answers in multiple places. It doesn't need to be that. And that's one of the challenges that I found with people who have this beautiful desire to become trauma informed, right? They want to become trauma informed. They know they're committed to this work, and they know that they have work to share with the world. It's so important that when we know we have something to do here on earth. And it can feel so frustrating and so heartbreaking when we know we have this work to do and we're unsure how to do it, how to bring it forward, how to share it without being activated, being taken out, without going into like our nervous systems going offline. It's so frustrating. And I think that's what holds many of us back. And so I want you to have a community, a program that helps you with the skill sets really to do whatever amazing work that you're doing in a way that's trauma informed, that keeps you safe. Hi, Steph. Hi, honey. That helps keep you safe and the people that you're working with safe so that you can do the work you're meant to do in a safe way, in a more fun way, right? In an easier way. Because even when we talk about healing trauma and moving past our past and really integrating it and doing the work we're meant to do, that can happen with ease. It's not always easy, but it can happen with more ease and with more grace. And I think that when people have had challenging circumstances, you've had trauma, you've survived it, you're learning to overcome it. You, of all people, deserve to have every opportunity that you can to do the work you're meant to do with more ease, with more grace, and with more support. You are worthy of support. And I'm excited to share how this program can support you. It is exquisite. I'm so excited to share it with you. We're going to drop the application link in. We're not giving a ton of details today on the program on purpose. If you feel called to apply, you should. There's no cost to apply and there's no obligation. You can apply and decide that it's not for you, right? And so there's no obligation to apply, but I believe that you should allow yourself to see what's available to you, to make this process easier. Our world is being forced to embrace trauma-informed care, whether we want to or not. The coaching industry currently is unregulated. It's not always going to be unregulated because there is harm being done and there are things happening that shouldn't be. But the reality is you can definitely be ahead of the curve and committed to trauma-informed care, psychological safe care, so that you can build your business with a foundation that's ethical, that's integrous, that you feel proud of, that you feel proud to share with people your paid work because you're worthy of massive compensation for your great work. And I am so here to support you on that journey. If you have questions, please DM me. We will drop the links for the application as soon as we log off here, and we will share more details about the program tomorrow on tomorrow's live. We're back at 11 a.m. Eastern tomorrow. I think we have our tech issues figured out, and so there shouldn't be a delay tomorrow. I'm so grateful that you're here. I'm so excited about the work that you're here to do and the lives you're going to bless by doing this work. Whatever that is, like I said, for some of us, it is a business. That is the way that God, source, universe will bless you and will open up, the windows for abundance to come to you for all that you're wanting to do. For other people, it might be a hobby that you have. It might be this mission that you have. I was watching just quickly, I was watching this the game went off. My husband and daughter love sports. 90 minutes came on, or 60 minutes, whatever it's called, came on. And the creators of Melissa and Doug, that child company that creates like little toys, like the wooden toys and games and puzzles. It's a husband and wife, and it's like a multi-billion-dollar business. What they have created, the wife has consistently, she shared, struggled with depression her whole life. She shared a letter on that 60 minutes about when she was very young, like under 7, I think, writing a letter sharing that she wasn't sure she wanted to live. She felt so much emotional pain and she didn't understand the meaning of life. And so she, stayed alive. She was in therapy for a long time, still is. She went to college, got married, had children. They started this company. She said the company is how she channeled her energy, and the company is how she kept herself busy, right, along with raising her family. I say all of that to say they have created this app that supports mental health care, trauma informed care. It has, meditations and different practices. It's all free. They are completely funding this. And my point is this: she says that she's very grateful for the wealth that their company has created. She's very blessed for what her company has been in the lives of families, having these toys and educational items for children. She feels very fulfilled in that. But she said, I wish to give back in this kind of way so that more people have access to mental health care, to practical resources, um, to ways in which they can help themselves despite them being able to pay for it or not. And so they could have easily made this into a business, right? And there would have been no judgment for me if she had made it into a business. But she's saying she wants to use the wealth that she believes God, source universe, has given to her through her business to then create this nonprofit essentially to help other people on their mental health journey, because she can so relate to it. And I share that to say, I know for a fact that many of you are called to the same brilliant ideas, to the same outrageous wealth. I knew the company was huge, right? I'm a mom, I have a kid. I had no idea it was worth multiple billions of dollars. And she's saying that they give back to multiple children's organizations, right? Just because they want to. And she felt so called to create this mental health initiative for a hurting generation, for a hurting people who need more support, who need more trauma-informed support. And I know that myself and many of you are called to do the exact same thing, to allow abundance and wealth to come through your business so that you can have the life that you deserve to have, so that you can bless other people because of the abundance, right, that you have, and able to do even more heart-centered and soul-centered work in this world that is so needed. I believe that entrepreneurs and that creators are going to change this world through their thought leadership, through the dreams that are on their heart, through the ideas and inventions and programs that are on your heart to create and to share with the world. And it's so much easier to create that work. It's so much easier to share that work. It's so much easier to move through the growing pains of growth and change and leadership and business and ownership and expansion when you are alongside people who can relate to you, who have been there, who are moving through it too at all different levels, right? For women, especially, we need community in some ways over everything else. Unity, we need tribe, we need to be together, and we need to know that we're not in it by ourselves. And so much of business and so much of like creating movements that are impactful and meaningful, there's this real sense of like doing it on your own that can become so lonely and so isolating. And it's so true. In order to really bring forth this business in the way that I knew it wanted be brought forth, I had to join a community myself that was a year long, which is why I will be expanding this to a longer period next year. And you will have that upgrade at no additional cost so that you can have that full um, time to really implement and expand and have support as you're implementing and growing and meeting your goals and setting new goals. And so I want to honor your time. I love that you were here. We'll drop the application links in. I'm so excited to share the details with you. We will be going over tomorrow's topic and also the modules that will be in the program tomorrow. I can't wait to share it with you. If you are feeling, hi, love, if you are feeling the pull to apply, I would encourage you to do so. There's no obligation to apply. And here's the thing, sometimes, I think every time, when we feel the desire to move, we are rewarded for having the audacity to move, to try, to go for it, to leave our comfort zone, and to really go after the thing that we want, understanding that when we do that, we activate something in the atmosphere that will support the moves that we're making. And so I will leave you with that. I am so excited for you, for us, for this cohort. There's going to be amazing people in it. I can feel it in my bones and my marrow, and I can't wait to celebrate with you for taking this next step. We'll put the application link. We will see you tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern, right here on my personal Facebook page. Nourish yourself, dance it out, put a song on, move your body. We've been here for a while now, over an hour and a half. So move your body, have some fun, and continue to share what you're taking away from today in the comment section. I can't wait to come back and read it. I see you, Luana, beauty from ashes every day for sure. I love you and I will see you tomorrow. Thanks so much. Bye for now.